Welcome everyone, this is DerekJ Speaks, and today we are talking about night one of WrestleMania 40, live from Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Show just went off the air not too long ago as of this recording, with the image of Roman Reigns and his cousin, The Rock, standing tall after defeating World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes in the main event to secure a Bloodline Rules main event for night two of WrestleMania. And I predicted it. A lot of people saw it coming, and it still played out in a very dramatic match. The match started very, very slowly, like a lot of Roman Reigns matches do, but it made sense considering the fact that they were given so much time. These guys were given about 16 or so minutes for their entrances alone. In fact, between the time the match that took place before this one had ended versus when the bell rang to start this tag team match, there was about 30 minutes that passed of there being no wrestling whatsoever. So there's about 16 minutes of entrances. The match itself went about 44 minutes. So that definitely played into how long the match felt in the early half of it, because there was a whole two halves of this match where early on there was a lot of staring, there was a lot of playing around, doing very basic things, placating to the crowd and doing all that kind of stuff, getting the tags, feeding off of the energy from the crowd, which was very interesting because no one really got full cheers or full boos. In fact, Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes at different points in this match were getting booed. Roman Reigns got booed. He also got a few cheers. Rock probably got the biggest reaction out of anybody in this match. Early on, when he first got tagged in, he got a huge ovation. Even when he came out and was making his entrance, Rock was the one person in this entire match who, throughout the first 10 or so minutes, was getting the biggest reaction, biggest sustained reaction out of anybody in the match. And of course, as it went on, you could still hear boos for Cody, but the fans were really getting behind him. Rock and Roman were getting more boos. Seth, he was just kind of there, which is how the buildup has felt. But Seth had his work and shoes on tonight. He was doing a lot. In fact, a good chunk of this match, he was the one getting worked over on his injured knee. Roman Reigns, you can make jokes about the guy. He does not work as often as many other people would like him to, but he was showing up big time in this match. He was taking a lot of abuse. He looked like he was in a war by the time this match was over. But the biggest story, of course, and Cody was great, the biggest story was The Rock, the same man who has not had a full-fledged match in well over a decade. How was The Rock going to look out there? And like I said, this match went about 44 minutes, so you knew Rock was not going to go balls to the wall or anything in the early part of the match. He just did the bare minimum of things, but he did get to a point where he was brawling out into the crowd with Seth Rollins and doing all this crazy stuff. And as the match went on, it felt very natural seeing him out there. It didn't feel like this was someone who was looking winded and gassed or anything like that. It looked like someone who belonged in the WrestleMania main event. And during that first part of the match, it definitely was not feeling like a WrestleMania main event. It was not feeling like this big time match that they were hyping up. Because I even said going into it that this match, more so than Cody and Roman on night two, this felt like the true main event of WrestleMania as a whole this year, just based on the buildup alone, which the buildup to this WrestleMania, in particular this main event, has been so crazy that they even announced after the show that there's going to be a documentary going behind the scenes, basically of the making of this feud in this storyline. It's going to be on their YouTube channel this upcoming Wednesday, so that should be very interesting to see. But the match with The Rock, he looked great out there, and it definitely got very chaotic down the stretch. You had a lot of big things that were going on, a lot of big near falls. Roman, he ate a whole bunch of finishers at different points in this match. We had more action going on the outside. The rules were very bent, and that was done by design because The Rock was throwing his weight around. He was abusing his power pretty much. He even got in the referee's face at one point very early on, told him, do not count. As the referee was counting guys out, he told him, don't count. If you count, you're fired. And don't fuck around, or The Rock's not fucking around. So he dropped an F-bomb there, and he was abusing his power throughout the rest of the match. He pulled out the referee at certain points. He was kind of throwing the referee around. So The Rock was definitely drunk with his final boss power in this match. But Cody and Seth, they tried to fight through it. Seth was selling his injured knee. Cody was the underdog babyface fighting from underneath, trying to get the upper hand here. There's a lot of good stuff. At one point on the outside, we had a bunch of different things going on. We had Cody rock bottom The Rock through the announce table. Meanwhile, Seth got speared through the timekeeper's barricade. So we had that kind of craziness here. We had at one point Roman Reigns ate a double super kick from Cody and Seth, and he got hit with a stomp, hit with a crossroads. Looked like it was all over, but then The Rock pulled out the referee, and that was another really good near fall. One of the best near falls of the entire match happened later on down the stretch of this match, where basically everyone's in the ring, or at least Roman, Cody, and Rock are in the ring. And there's a clear shot for Roman to go and spear Cody. As he's going towards Cody to hit the spear, Seth dives in, moves Cody out of the way, and Roman accidentally spears The Rock. And Rock had a very, very hilarious sell job of this spear from Roman. The look on his face was hilarious. And it contrasted with Roman's the facial expressions that he was having of shock and fear and regret and all that. You see this pained expression on The Rock's face. So I thought that was great. And it led to a spot where Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes hit simultaneous pedigrees on both men, but just a very, very close near fall. But it all was building to the finish, what the closing moments of this match was going to be. And we saw a bit of deja vu, where it was Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns in the ring. And you had Cody hit the crossroads on Roman Reigns. Gets him up, hits him with the second one. He's going for the trifecta. Last year in the main event, he went for the same maneuver, and as he was going for that third one, he got backed up into the corner, and that's when Solo Sikoa spiked him in his throat, and that led to his downfall. We had a similar spot here, where after Cody hit the two crossroads on Roman, he's trying to pull off the hat trick, hit the third one, but then he gets backed up into the ropes, where on the outside, The Rock just unloads on Cody Rhodes' back with his white leather weight belt. The same belt that he promised to deliver to Mama Rhodes. Of course, Cody Rhodes' mother was in the front row, and you could hear her in the background talking about all kinds of bullshit and everything. You also at one point saw The Rock's mother in the front row on the other side, but she didn't play a role in this match. Might she on night 2? I don't know. I doubt it, but still. Rock unleashed on Cody with that weight belt. Roman tagged in The Rock, and then The Rock got in the ring, hit Cody with a rock bottom, hit a people's elbow, told Mama Rhodes, this is for you, and then he pinned Cody Rhodes to get the win for himself and Roman Reigns, thus making it official that the main event of Night 2 of WrestleMania between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes will be contested under Bloodline Rules, meaning anything goes, and it's gonna be wild as hell. It's gonna be a bunch of interference. It's gonna be a lot of bullshit early on. You're gonna have probably rules changing. It's gonna be made unfair for the referee. A little bit of a taste of what we saw tonight. It'll be that tomorrow, where The Rock was just verbally and even at some points physically abusing the referee and calling the shots. I'm sure he'll be a big presence in that match tomorrow. We didn't see any signs of Solo Sikoa on this show tonight. I assume that was by design because they are waiting to use him for this spot tomorrow. Jey Uso, despite him losing on this show, I'm sure he'll be a presence felt during this match. Might we see other members of the Anoa'i family or anyone connected with them interfere in this match? It's possible. Whether they're in the bloodline or not, it's Bloodline Rules. That does not necessarily mean it's only bloodline members who will get involved. Might we see other people who are just other heels on the roster get involved, all for the benefit of helping Roman Reigns? And because The Rock is the boss, the final boss, could he throw his weight around and influence other people to interfere in that match? Completely stack the deck for Cody. All hope is lost. Maybe some of his other babyface friends are taken out of the picture, and it's just all, there's no hope for him until we get some cameos. I've been saying this. I said it in my predictions. You've probably heard a lot of other people say this. This is not an original thought whatsoever. But yes, I am one of the many people who is hoping we see some craziness over the course of this match. I'm talking big time names coming out. You know, you can have your Jey Usos and maybe even Seth Rollins if he can physically make it out there. Dude was a broken mess in this match. He has to defend his World Heavyweight Championship against Drew McIntyre in what I presume will be the opening match of Night 2. Who knows if he'll even be able to make it out there in the main event. But if he does, sure, whatever. Maybe some other people who have crossed the bloodline. But I'm hoping for those big names. I'm hoping for a John Cena. I'm hoping for a Stone Cold Steve Austin. Even The Undertaker. We saw The Undertaker this weekend, so he is in the area. He inducted Muhammad Ali into the Hall of Fame the other night, so he's around. Don't know if Triple H will get involved. Michael Cole at the very beginning of this show deemed this the Triple H era, so it would be fitting if Triple H came out there and gave some kind of assist in helping Cody Rhodes finish his story. To put it in movie terms, tonight, night 1 of WrestleMania was Avengers Infinity War, where it was a lot of chaos, a lot of fun, but in the end, it was the somber, almost depressing finish where the bad guys win. And now tomorrow night will be Avengers Endgame, where the good guys come back and they try to fight off this whole army that's against them. And it's just mass chaos. Something along those lines. Very nerdy, I know. It's a very nerdy thing to talk about, but hell, I'm talking about wrestling. We're talking about pro wrestling. So we're already going down the nerdy path as it is. As for tonight, this match, very slow. I was not feeling it. I'm talking like the first 10, 15, close to 20 minutes of the match. But then the last 15 or 10 towards the second half of it is when stuff started to really kick up. You had a lot of brutal action. You had a lot of fun things. And that's when it became into its own, and it truly felt like a WrestleMania main event for me. Rock pinning Cody Rhodes was the outcome that I figured made the most sense, because I think that plays into a bigger story. Little stuff like Roman Reigns spearing The Rock during this match and Rock being the one to pin Cody Rhodes. I feel like it's little stuff like that that's going to build up into a bigger overarching story for the Bloodline themselves, mainly between The Rock and Roman Reigns. And I'm thinking well ahead into the future. I don't want to go too deep into it right now. I kind of talked about it in my predictions, and I'm sure I'll probably talk about it during my Night 2 review, and then maybe even if I review Raw and SmackDown later on this week. If we see signs of dissension within the Bloodline, like I'm thinking we will, I'll discuss it more in depth there. But just in terms of what we saw tonight, I thought the match turned out to be very good. It was a very strong main event. Did it need to go 44 minutes? Probably not. Honestly, probably not. You could have condensed some of the action here and made it a little more faster paced instead of just giving them all 44, 45 minutes. You could have reduced it down and then spread some of that time out to other matches on the show. Because had some other matches on the show gotten more time to really do something, then maybe they would have been better off for it. But nevertheless, the outcome, while predictable, was not badly predictable, because I figured the heels were going to win here, and they did. And I see no issue with that, because it paves the way for some big time stuff to happen on Night 2, provided that through all of that, all the cameos, everything that happens, in the end, it needs to be Cody Rhodes finishing his story and beating Roman Reigns and taking that championship. And that's really the bottom line of it. Well, Cody hopefully will finish his story, but someone finished a story on this show. That someone was Sami Zayn, as he challenged Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship in a match that really truly felt like the real Rocky story in Philly on this show. The build up to this match, everything about it has really felt like a Rocky story, and that was playing out a lot in this match to a certain degree. Even before the match, where they had Sami Zayn backstage with his wife and his son, he's telling his wife to keep their son in the back. He didn't want him to see anything that was going to go out there. Chad Gable, he ran into Chad Gable, the man who I wanted to see in this spot, but oh well. Chad Gable told him he's going out there by himself. And then right before he came through the curtain, the last person he ran into was Kevin Owens, his best friend, the same man who he teamed up with in the main event of WrestleMania last year. And then he went out there. It was a whole single one shot, continuous shot. It was cool. The match itself was excellent. Gunther was dominant early on, and Sami was fighting back, but then it got to a point where Gunther was just completely dominant over Sami Zayn, and was tossing him around, was beating him down, and Sami would not give up for the life of him. But it became very overwhelming and borderline uncomfortable, because you had Gunther, who's not only beating this guy's ass, but he's smiling about it, and he's taunting Sami's wife. His wife came back out. She was in the front row. Their son was not with her, but she was out there. And the story they were playing up is that Sami is tired of letting people down in terms of these big singles championship matches. They were pointing out last year when Sami went up against Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber, and he was right there with his wife in the front row, and he lost. So it was akin to that. But Gunther, powerbomb after powerbomb, clotheslines, he went up top, was hitting the splash on Sami. He was doing everything to beat this guy down and enjoying himself while doing it. But he got a little too cocky, because as he was up there, Sami Zayn was mustering up the energy to power himself back up, and he did. And he went to kick Gunther in the face, and then he went up top right there along with Gunther, easy for me to say, and it looked like he was setting up for a superplex off the top, but instead he hit Gunther with a brain buster and slammed him down headfirst onto the top of the turnbuckle. And then as Gunther was licking his wounds and getting his bearings about himself, Sami comes at him with the haluva kick, comes back at him with a second one, goes for the cover, and Sami Zayn gets the 1, 2, 3, and so ends the 665-day reign of Gunther as the Intercontinental Champion. Sami Zayn wins his 4th Intercontinental Championship and is the first man in WWE on the main roster to pin Gunther. There you go. I definitely did not see that coming. There was... Yes and no. There was a point in this match where you see the way that the match is being structured, and you see the way that they're booking this match and how they are telling this story. You could tell that the outcome was gearing up to be a Sami Zayn win. However, going into this match, I really did not expect Sami Zayn to win. By all accounts, with the story they were telling, one would believe that, but I didn't see it. I didn't see it happening. Maybe that was just me being in denial because I really wanted Chad Gable to be in the spot. Hell, I didn't even need Gunther breaking the record. I wanted Sheamus to win the Intercontinental Championship from him last year. So all my dreams of people who I wanted to see beat Gunther had already been dashed long ago. So I figured Gunther would make it past another WrestleMania with his championship, but Sami pulled it out. Now, I'm disappointed only in that the other people who I mentioned, who I envisioned being in the spot to beat Gunther, did not do it. And I feel like it would have meant more for them. For Chad Gable, it would have meant more for him because there was a ready-made story to tell with him coming out of his loss to Gunther and his daughter crying and all of that. With somebody like Sheamus, who isn't even around for WrestleMania this weekend anyway, it made sense for him. It's the one championship that he had never won before, so there was a story there. I liked that. With Sami, clearly there was a story that they were telling, but I just didn't think it was resonating the same way with me because we've seen Sami win big matches. We saw him in the main event of WrestleMania winning last year. I get that was a tag team match. I get that was a tag team title match, and I get that was a specific ending to a whole different story than the one that Sami's in now. I get that. I can see that. It wasn't something that I would have done. But I'm not going to sit here and complain about it because these two had a damn good match on this show. I thought this was incredible stuff that the two of them pulled out tonight. And hats off to Gunther because the man, 665 or however many days it's been as the Intercontinental Championship, he has done a hell of a job of elevating that title to being one of the most prestigious championships in the entire company. So my hat's off to Gunther for all the hard work that he has done in restoring some glory to that championship. And, you know, it's hard to tell, but I very well believe that there is a good chance Gunther will be a world champion in this company by the end of the year. Whether that's the World Heavyweight Championship, whether it's the WWE Championship, if he finds himself on the same brand as that title, whatever brand, whatever title it is, Gunther very likely will end 2024 as a world champion and will have a whole new dominant run with that title. The Intercontinental Championship, for as prestigious as Gunther has made that title, it has been beneath him for quite a while now. There was not much more that he could do with it. So even though I thought Gunther would win, I still knew that that championship was beneath him at this point. And he's ready to move on to bigger and better things in this company. And very soon he will. But for Sami Zayn, I don't know how strongly he'll be booked as Intercontinental Champion. He's been a champion before. All the other times he was champion, it was as a heel. So it's different stakes now. I look forward to seeing how this story develops for Sami Zayn and for Gunther individually going forward. We also opened the show with a damn good match for the Women's World Championship. Rhea Ripley defending the title against Becky Lynch. I thought this was a strong opener. I thought there was a big fight feel for these two women. I mentioned in my predictions that this is one of the biggest women's matches you could book for this year's WrestleMania, and I knew going in that these two would kill it, and they did. If I'm recalling correctly, I know there's a recency bias here, but not necessarily. I did recently watch the Charlotte Flair Rhea Ripley match from last year, and I can say that I think that match was better than the one we got here, but that's not to discredit the work that Rhea and Becky have put in, because during the course of this run that Rhea has had, she hasn't had a whole lot of great matches. In fact, a lot of the matches that she has had have been pretty pedestrian, kind of boring, very meh. So this match stands head and shoulders above a lot of the other championship defenses that Rhea has had during the course of this title reign. This was excellent. This was a great match, and it was the right outcome. I was not ready to see Rhea lose her championship yet, not to Becky Lynch at least, and she got the win. As Becky was going to hit an avalanche manhandle slam, it got thwarted, and Rhea turned it into a riptide onto the top turnbuckle, and then she hit a proper one in the ring and got the win. So Rhea Ripley, still the champion. Not a great night for Becky and Seth, but at least they both had really good matches. Speaking of really good matches, we had a really good ladder match. There were 12 guys in it, so you didn't know how crazy it was going to be with all those bodies out there doing things, but it turned out to be really good. The six-pack ladder match for the Undisputed Tag Team Championships, undisputed no more, because they added the little wrinkle this past week on Raw that this match only ends once both sets of titles have been pulled down from the ceiling. So that meant that there was at least a chance that those titles were getting split up. And I predicted that it was going to happen, and that's exactly what happened. Not only did I correctly predict that they were indeed going to split the tag team championships, but I predicted down to a T exactly who were going to win the titles and in what order. Because the first team to win was Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Waller pulled down the SmackDown tag team titles, so midway through the match, Grayson Waller and Austin Theory are now officially the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. They proceeded to continue wrestling because they wanted the Raw titles too, but at the very least, we knew at that point that they were the Tag Team Champions. Very anticlimactic way for a title to change hands, but it is what it is. And then by the end of it, it was R-Truth who pulled down the Raw tag team titles to win it for himself and The Miz. Big pop for R-Truth as he was on top of that ladder pulling down those titles. A big ovation for him. Happy for R-Truth. That was a great moment for R-Truth in this match. And the match itself, the ladder match itself, was chaos. We had a whole sequence of moves in this match where DIY were trying to basically murder Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne. We had Johnny Gargano hit the slingshot DDT on Pete Dunne off of the apron down through a table on the outside. Meanwhile, Ciampa's in the ring on the very top of the ladder hitting an air raid crash on Tyler Bate all the way down to the mat. It was brutal and crazy to see. Easily the best spots of the entire match. But it was just funny because neither of those teams factored into the finish. And of course, R-Truth did overcome the Judgment Day. The big final maneuver was him hitting the Attitude Adjustment on Damian Priest to win it for himself and The Miz. So there was that. So those were the main matches that I really liked. Those were the longest matches of the night. I remember seeing a report, I think it was from Meltzer, that those four matches in particular would be the longest matches of the night, and that was indeed the case. As for the other matches, not so great. Right after the ladder match, we had a tag team match where Dominic Mysterio teamed up with Santos Escobar to take on Rey Mysterio, and taking the place of Dragon Lee was Andrade. And of course, members of Legado del Fantasma and the LWO were all at ringside. They mixed it up a little bit. The match itself, it was fine. It was, honestly, it was a television match. And even that has varying degrees of meaning because we've seen TV matches that were better than this. This was just a very standard match with a very weird finish because Dominic was on the outside. Santos told him to get some steel chairs. He was going for it. And then these two large white men with lucha masks started attacking Dominic and threw him back into the ring. And then Rey proceeded to hit a double 619 on Dom and Escobar. And then he went up top, hit a splash onto Santos to get the win for his team. So he and Andrade won. And then after the match, I had a feeling of who it could have been, and it pretty much was at least halfway right. But Jason Kelce from the Philadelphia Eagles, there were reports that he was going to be on this show in some capacity. I did not expect it to be him wearing a lucha mask, but here we are. He was out there, and Lane Johnson, also from the Eagles. They were the two masked men who attacked Dominic and helped Rey Mysterio for the second year in a row beat the hell out of his son. So there you go. A very throwaway match, and this was one of the points where the crowd started to come down. At varying points of this show, and even in the main event, the crowd was very quiet for a lot of the matches. Now, one could say that the matches started taking a little bit of a dive in terms of their interest level, but also you can take into consideration the fact that, and the commentators were talking about this all night, it was very cold in that stadium. This is an outdoor stadium in Philadelphia in early April, so you can imagine that it was very cold. It started out in the mid-50s, and it only got lower from there. So I'm sure that didn't help their excitement level. But when they had to come alive, they sure did. Because after the tag team match, we had Jimmy and Jey Uso having their singles match, a match that these two men were very excited about having. And they even talked about it in interviews in previous years about wanting to have a singles match together at WrestleMania. And they finally do it. They separate them, put them on different shows, and they come back around to build to a match at WrestleMania. They gave them a hype video package, a promo video that was very good. You get the match. Jey Uso, he comes out there super over, as one would expect. Lil Wayne performed with him out there. Didn't do a great job. It was funny. I like Lil Wayne. I really do. But they had Samantha Irvin announce him as the greatest rapper of all time, which is highly debatable. And it was just funny because she announced him as that, and then he proceeded to do a little quick verse from his song A Milli, and he sounded awful. So it was just hilarious that she announced him as the greatest rapper of all time, and then for the first time, probably people's first time ever hearing him, because I'm sure there's a lot of people within the wrestling fan base who has no idea who Lil Wayne is or what he sounds like. So in theory, this could be their first time ever hearing him, and they hear this announcer call him the greatest of all time, and he sounds awful. So that was funny. The match itself was very disappointing. This was probably the most disappointing match of the entire night because it just didn't click. And they got to a point where they were just spamming super kicks, particularly Jey, where he was just hitting a bunch of super kicks on Jimmy Uso. It was bizarre. And they were kind of throwing kicks back and forth. At one point, Jey was made to look like an idiot, where Jimmy was on his knees and he was begging he was begging him off, and he was saying how sorry he was and all that and how he was wrong. Jey fell for it, which on one hand, it makes Jey look like an idiot, but on the other hand, they have played up that one of Jey's character arcs, one of his character traits is how devoted he is to his family and how easily manipulated he can be in terms of the love that he has for his family. It's what has happened with him being in the bloodline for so long, that when you use family against him, whether it's his brother or whatever, he gets very emotional. So that was a believable spot. It just didn't come off well. Plus, the crowd obviously didn't buy into it. I think it would have been nice if you did that spot and then Jey kicked him anyway. Like, he has outgrown that. He's overcome that. But they were playing up the fact that Jey didn't even want to be in this position in the first place. I got the story they were telling. It just didn't work, and the crowd really didn't care about it. In the end, Jey Uso won. That shocked me. I thought Jimmy was going to win. They gave it to Jey. I'm not arguing with it. Jey is super over. Jimmy really isn't, and this does not help with that all that much, but at least Jey Uso got a big win. The fans cheered for his victory, but you could tell when he won, the fans were not nearly as enthusiastic as they were for Jey's, as for his entrance. So, not a great night there, but still, it is what it is. I was really looking forward to this match. I thought they were going to have a really good match, but yeah, this was one of the most disappointing, if not the most disappointing thing on the entire show. And then the last thing I'll talk about is the 6-woman tag team match. This match, very short, very simple. The task was to make Jade Cargill look strong in her WrestleMania debut, and that's what happened. The team of Jade, Naomi, and Bianca Belair defeated Damage Control with Dakota Kai, Asuka, and Kairi Sane. And Jade, they were building to a hot tag for her, and she got in the ring, and she cleaned house. And she was looking strong. She looked very confident in herself. I thought she looked good. It didn't last long enough to make a great impression, but she looked good out there. And in the end, she planted Dakota with the Jaded, and she got the win. So hiding Jade Cargill in a tag team match was a smart move. I say continue that and put the tag team titles on Jade and Bianca Belair and have the two of them be a dominant force within the women's tag team division, the non-existent women's tag team division, but still nonetheless. And that's a good way to put Jade in a prominent position, pairing her up with Bianca Belair. That instantly gives Jade credibility because Bianca has such credibility and equity already in the company as one of the biggest stars in the company. So pairing them up would make sense. It reduces how much Jade has to really do. And plus, you have right there an easy match to eventually build up to. Perhaps for next year's WrestleMania, if not for a different show, because there's many big matches that you can potentially do with Bianca Belair for WrestleMania 41. 3, in fact. Either her versus Jade Cargill, her versus Charlotte Flair, or her versus Rhea Ripley. You can go with any of those 3 matches for WrestleMania 41 next year with Bianca Belair, and if built up correctly, any of those 3 matches could be a potential Night 1 WrestleMania main event. Because we all know the Night 2 main event is going to be The Rock versus Roman Reigns, whether a championship is involved or not. And that's about it. So that covers Night 1 of WrestleMania. 4 out of the 7 matches I really liked. The ladder match was very good for what it was. I thought we had a great opener. Intercontinental Championship match was the best match of the night. And that tag team main event, unnecessarily long as it was, the second half definitely came alive, but that first half was very weak. But they did come alive for the second. And, you know, the middle matches, like those main 3 midpoint matches on the show, were quite weak, but it was not enough to completely drag everything down for me. Night 1 was very entertaining. I'm very much so looking forward to Night 2. We got LA Knight and AJ Styles. We have a Philadelphia street fight. Seth and Drew are fighting each other. We got triple threat for the U.S. title. We have, what else is there? Io and Bayley, they're going to have their match. And of course, Bloodline Rules in the main event between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. I have hyped myself up. They have not announced anything. They have not promoted anything. So this is all on me. So I could come back to you guys tomorrow night very disappointed because I didn't get what I wanted. But I'm hoping for something fun is all I can say. And hopefully we will get it. And yes, I will be back here to cover it. Hopefully WWE makes the right decision. But whether they do or do not, you are going to hear about it from me tomorrow. And if you liked what you heard tonight on this video and you like what you saw, then hit that like button, comment down below what your thoughts were on the show, and of course, subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter/X at DerekJ Speaks. Until WrestleMania Sunday, Night 2, Bloodline Rules. Check you guys later.